Okay, thank you. Welcome to the Select Board meeting and public hearing on Wednesday, May 21st at 7 p.m. at the Hollis Community Building. I'd like people to introduce themselves today. On my right,
Okay. Mike, just so I can get this straight, because everybody knows me as Jack. My Christian name is John. So everybody keeps asking, is that your son that's running, or is that you? So it's
Jack John. And
Roger Hicks.
my name is Mary Hoffman. We're your Select Board. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Before we start, we have an announcement. An event to meet this year's candidates for Select Board and Tax Collector, sponsored by the Hollis Grange, will take place at the Hollis Community Building next Wednesday, May 28th at 7 p.m. This is an in-person public event, but will be televised on cable and YouTube, and they will also have Zoom. So just a reminder, if you are attending on Zoom, please use the raised hand icon if you have a comment or a question during the public hearing, because you can't throw tomatoes at them to get their attention, so you do have to use the raised hand icon. I never can find it, but I'm lucky I don't do Zoom very often.
All right.
So I need a motion.
Make a motion, we suspend the meeting and open public hearing for license renewal review of Maine Only LLC, an adult use cannabis retail store at 321 Hollis Road.
second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we got reports from the code enforcement officer, and he passed all the inspections. We haven't had any complaints. So is there any public comment on Maine Only LLC at 321 Hollis Road?
Is the fire chief involved in that also?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the fire chief code goes out and does their yearly annual inspections.
Perfect.
So any public comment?
All right. Okay, make a motion to close the public hearing and reconvene the select board meeting.
Second that.
Pardon?
It's okay.
Oh,
No.
No.
oh,
I didn't
No.
know when, I'm inexperienced, so I didn't know when a public comment could be made. It wasn't in reference to what you were talking about.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't in reference to the, okay, all righty.
My partner here, he'll correct me. I speak freely at home, though.
Oh, okay.
So we get a second, so we're gonna reconvene the select board meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, I need a motion to vote on the business license.
okay, make a motion, we vote to renew the cannabis license for Maine Only LLC, 321 Hollis Road.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we need another motion.
All right. Make a motion to suspend the meeting and open public hearing for all secret ballot articles, proposed ordinances, and ordinance changes for the June 10th, 2025 annual town meeting.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So here we are. So if you have a comment, you just have to raise your, get up the podium or whatever. So this is the warrant for the Hollis Annual Town Meeting for fiscal year July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. State of Maine, to Terry Walters, a resident of the town of Hollis in the county of York, state of Maine, and he did post the warrant already. In the name of the state of Maine, you are hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants in said town of Hollis qualified to vote in town affairs to assemble at the Hollis Center Church, 388 Hollis Road, in said town of Hollis on Tuesday, the 10th day of June, A.D. 2025, at 6:45 a.m. in the forenoon to act on Article 1 and by secret ballot on Articles 2 through 31 as set out below. The polling hours to be from 7 o'clock in the forenoon until 8 o'clock in the evening. Article 1 is to elect by written ballot a moderator to preside at said town meeting. Article 2 is to elect the necessary town officials as follows. 1 select board assessor overseer of the poor for a 3-year term. 1 select board assessor overseer of the poor for a 2-year term. 1 select board assessor overseer of the poor for a 1-year term, and 1 tax collector for a 3-year term. Any questions on Article 1 or Article 2? And like I said, there'll be an event to meet the candidates for those select board and tax collectors on next Wednesday. Article 3, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $1,816,720 for general government operations. So we're not going to read them all, but if anybody has any questions, where the questions were last time was on administration, which went up to $195,164, and $90,000 of that was for the new town manager. And then we had, the admin assistant had a raise. And then we increased the audit number to 20,000 because our audit is getting more extensive and they're going to be doing more work for us. Any questions on administration 100?
Did we, excuse me, did we clarify that just that top line is going to be what's on the ballot because we shrunk the ballot?
Oh, no, because Martha did that last time.
Okay.
So like Martha said last
addressed
time,
that.
is she here? So Martha last time reviewed that the ballot is going to change. So instead of having all of the administration, broadcasting, and treasurer officer and all the little ones underneath Article 3, there's just going to be Article 3 will say, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $1,816,720 for general government operations, and then it will be a yes or a no. It won't have everything listed. However, in the ballot booth will be copies of the warrant, so you'll have the warrant there so you can look at it.
Right.
Kind of over the years, people started talking about how long the actual warrant was to read all that and then vote. So I'm talking with Martha.
And she's been asked for probably 3 or 4 years to change that by the state, so she finally did. So the other one that Martha brought to everyone's attention was 104, the town clerk office, which had raised to $84,910, but that's because she now has a deputy clerk
Right.
that's full-time with her. And what else? And then a big question was on the code enforcement officer. So we'll just clarify that with you. They wanted to know why he had increased so much from 1,500, from 117,595 to 123,533. And a lot of that is salary. He does work 34 hours a week, and we did a comparison with other towns with what their salaries are, and Portland pays $39.08 an hour. They work 37.5 hours a week. Our code officer works 34. Standish works 38 hours a week, and they pay $44.12 an hour. Buxton works 37 hours a week, and they pay $41.08 an hour. The only place that was lower than us was Waterboro. They work a 40-hour week, and they get paid $32.31. And then I just wanted to remind you of all the qualifications that Dwayne has to have, our code officer. They have to be qualified with shoreline zoning, land use planning, internal plumbing, subsurface waste disposal, building standards, legal issues, residential ventilation, residential building, residential energy, residential radon, commercial building, commercial energy, and commercial ventilation. So he has a lot of certifications that he has to keep up to date, and he has to attend a lot of classes. Any questions on Article 3? Article 4, yeah. Oh, so,
No, not about, may I just do a public comment?
sure, anytime.
On what do,
It's Kathy Walters, a 40-year Hollis resident,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm here to express concern about certain words directed towards select persons, Jack and Mary, at the most recent public hearing.
Okay,
The words are tyranny, corruption, and lie, which were inappropriate and untrue. Jack and Mary have stepped up and put in many hours of work for all of us for years. There is no cause to attack their personal integrity. None of us, as residents of Hollis, are going to agree on everything, but let's be a town that keeps to a higher standard when we do disagree. Thank you, Jack and Mary, and many others who work hard on our behalf.
Thank you.
thank you. You wanted to change, she has to leave, so,
oh, okay.
thank you. So, Roger's gonna do Article 4.
Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $37,300 for committees and boards? And that includes comp, planning, finance, appeals, community clothing closet, and conservation commission.
And the question last time was on the planning board, because they've increased so much.
Okay, so the increase on that is the contract with Southern Maine Regional Planning. Overall, I know this was a concern of the the Finance Committee. Joe chairs that got brought up. We were spending on the average between $27,000 and $28,000 a year, so we reviewed the contract with them and signed a contract for $25,000. Hence, that's the increase, or the majority of the increase is so that we can do work with Southern Maine Planning and Developing.
Any questions on Article 4? Article 5, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $507,463 for the Recreation Department and Sports Complex? And I'd like Chip to come up to the podium for a minute and explain some of the expanded programs that he's put into the rec department. Because he's just done a really good job, and I have to pick on him.
I appreciate that, Mary. I was here in case anybody had any questions anyway. Chip Courier, Assistant Director to DepTef. I'm on the Hollis Sports Complex Committee as well as the Hollis Community Days Committee as well. So this year we have a pretty big increase in our budget. There's been lots of changes happening. Since I've been aboard, we've doubled our programming. We now offer twice as much programming for boys, girls, kids, childcare, as well as we're working on getting some more senior programs together. So it costs a little bit of money to make money, of course. Our childcare was at 30 kids at the beginning when I started. We are up to about 65 kids on a normal day. Early release days, we're up to 75 kids. So that's a huge impact for our community, and being able to keep our costs low on that is a big thing that we try to do. Our summer rec program has also doubled this year, which is a big part of our expenses. We did raise our prices for the summer rec program this year. We went up a couple $100s to try to offset some of that cost. We've also been working very hard. We got a new director of childcare. She has come on board as of August. So she's trying to help with a bunch of stuff. I'm sure you guys, if you're on Facebook, you've seen my posts because I post about 9 times a day. We're just trying to make sure that we are able to accommodate everything that our community needs for childcare, sports, There's so many things that are coming back to us that were kind of forgotten about in the past, like boys basketball we got back this year. That was a big expense for us. We had 3rd and 4th grade and 5th and 6th grade basketball, where normally we wouldn't have that. We just have a girls program. We also, Bonnie Eagle is giving us back our coach pitch from what we hear. So we're working a coach pitch program for baseball. And our summer rec program is just incredible this year. We are able to offer so much more. We also did just get a bus so that our transportation costs can come down a little bit.
And he got certified to
and
drive.
CDL, so I can drive the bus, so it's not an extra cost for us. So we are trying to cut our costs at the same time as we're trying to build our program, which is why there is such a large jump in our budget this year. And like I said, it takes money to make money. We're projected for next year to cover a good portion of our costs on everything that we have to offer. In this year, I believe we doubled our revenue coming in for what we have been offering in the past. So that should help out a little bit on the other end. So when you see that number that's on there, we are working at getting that number to match what we're bringing in essentially, so that we're not such a big cost to the town. Yeah.
But they've really expanded their program. They have cooking classes, which are my favorite because they make make little things of banana bread with chocolate on them, and cookies and all kinds of stuff. So thank you, Chip.
We've been making sure that everybody is engaged and keeping our kids active. That's a big one. A lot of kids want to be on their phones all the time. We're a device-free zone here. We don't let our kids on any devices at all. We try to make sure they're using their minds and their bodies and their souls and getting into the program. And anybody have any questions for me while I'm here?
Thank you, Chip.
Of course.
Just on one other aspect of that, we anticipated revenues for 24-25 to be $190,000. And talking with Chip and going over his budgets for 25-26, we're anticipated revenues of $255,000.
Yep.
So,
And it's only going to keep growing from there. Especially we're trying to get as much programming together for everybody as we can. So I've only been here for like 8 months, and we've already got what we've got. So
Chipper, you've been doing a good job.
appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, my phone number is out there. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'm available anytime.
Except this weekend, he's taking a couple days off.
Mary told me I had to use my vacation time, so I'm going to use it. Thank you, guys.
thank you, Chip.
It's a rule. Article 6, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $1,510,902 for public works? In that is snow and sanding for $597,000, highway $129,100, paving $205,000, road commissioner $87,802, solid waste disposal $576,000, and streetlights $16,000. Any questions on Public Works? Any comments on Public Works?
Becky.
Ms. Becky?
Hi, Becky Bowley, Timber Lane. For this gentleman is probably the only one who doesn't know me. And I believe you're Mr. Moore and our new town manager. Welcome. My brother is the road commissioner, and he's here tonight to speak with you if there's any questions. I'm going to do a brief history of how we started 89 years ago and how we got to today. Also, for you who don't know, my cousin is a town clerk, and I work at 2 businesses in town, Pleasant Hill Excavators and the Animal Clinic. I think May 7th's meeting got off to a rough start for 2 reasons. One, Roger was ill, and he did most of the meeting and most of the finance committee work and would know most of the numbers. And I usually can answer a lot of questions, but my responsibility that evening was I sit on the York County Budget Committee. So the Budget Committee was meeting that night, so I couldn't be here. So after the public hearing on May 7th, there appears to be a number of questions regarding the snow contract, highway work, the road commissioner, and I'm going to do some history for those of you who don't know. For 88 years, my brother, father, grandfather have served as road commissioner. J. Ansel Hansen from 1936 to 1938, and from 1941 to 1974. Robert Hansen from 1974 to 2006, and Robert Hansen Jr. from 2007 to present date. Prior to 2008, when employees of J. Ansel Hansen General Contractors or Pleasant Hill Excavators worked for the town of Hollis, they were town of Hollis employees for all the hours worked for the town. Equipment rentals were paid by the town to whomever owned the equipment used for highway and snow control duties. And in the beginning, there were many. When I joined the company in 1995, we were using Harry Roberts' grader out of Buxton. And we've always subcontracted with Ken Stone for over the past 50 years. On June 29th, 2007, Pleasant Hill Excavators became subcontractors effective July 1st to August 1st, 2007. All labor and equipment expenses were paid to Pleasant Hill Excavators for work related to the town. On November 30th, 2007, Pleasant Hill Excavators was awarded the first snow plowing agreement, effective that October to April 15th, in which Pleasant Hill Excavators was being reimbursed by the town of Hollis for any subcontractors used in snow removal, road salting, sanding. The select board serving at that time wanted to limit the number of town employees and all associated expenses. And I do have a copy of that document if people would like copies. On March 7th, 1981, the town voted to appropriate monies for paid health insurance available through the Maine Municipal Association Group Insurance Plan to town employees, including the road commissioner. And I also have a copy of that page of the town report that year. It was in the town report in 1980, an article from 3781, Article 1.4. The contract for plowing of town roads went out to competitive bid in 2016 for the season effective starting August 15th, 2016. The snow and ice control contract has been awarded by a competitive bid process since that date. Prior to 2016, the contract was a written agreement negotiated by the road commissioner and the board of selectmen at that time. And I also have a sample letter from February 9th, 2014. The Hollis Road Commissioner is elected for a 2-year term and follows Maine state statutes under Title 23, Transportation, Part 3, Local Highway Law, Chapter 301, General Provisions, and Subchapter 1, Road Commissioner Articles, see 2701, 2702, and 2703. Right now, the negotiated labor rate per hour for any Pleasant Hill Excavator employees performing town duties, the employees are paid directly from Pleasant Hill Excavators. All other employee expenses and benefits, including medical, vacation, retirement, FICA, FUTA, SUTA, etc., are paid to the employee through Pleasant Hill Excavators and are included in the final computation of the negotiated hourly rate above. The use of private equipment for work for the town is paid to Pleasant Hill Excavators based on the Maine Department of Transportation, Bureau of Maintenance and Operators 2025 labor reimbursement, and private equipment rates. Equipment is reimbursed for the time the equipment is operating at the job location. Through May 31st, 2025, the labor and equipment expenses for the road commissioner duties were included in the snow contract or highway, depending on what they were doing. But Pleasant Hill Excavators was not awarded the bid this year. The bid was given to Briggs Construction. I believe the selectmen opted to go with the low bidder. And I believe, I know one, maybe two, I didn't have a chance to talk to Roger or Mary today. They went by cost only. And then they realized after that, oh, how are we going to pay the road commissioner to do his job? Because he doesn't have the snow contract. He always did this work as part of the snow contract. So somehow he has to be compensated when he's out there looking after things for the town of Hollis. And I think that this is the first step, and this is my only opinion. I think this is the first step in heading us in the direction of a Public Works Department or a Department of Public Works and bringing equipment back to the town and bringing employees back to the town. I think that's a ways out, but I think that's probably in the future. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Roger, please add your piece to this. I also had another thought today, but I'm not bringing it up at this meeting. But
Yeah, in 2016, I was the one who wrote the contract.
let me tell you. In 2016, in 2014, it was Ben,
Okay.
Brian, and Dave.
Huh?
In 2014, it was Ben, Brian, and Dave.
Yep, and then it was Dave, me, and River.
Yep,
And
yep. And then in 27, it was Butch, Stuart, and Ben. So it's,
Yep.
you know, it's all very well documented. I think what happens is you have to ask. You have to ask, how do we do things the way we do them and why? And unless you're a member of the Finance Committee, or you're a member of the Select Board, or you attend meetings, you might not know who to ask. So,
So,
thank you for your time.
I will, thank you, Becky, I appreciate that history, that's great. I will tell you, when it came down to the crunch time here, I talked with Robbie and we got some numbers together, sent an email because it was crunch time. I needed an answer within one day. I sent an email to the Finance Committee, and I have all the emails right here if you want to look at them, that the Finance Committee was spoken with about this budget that I needed for the next day. So there wasn't anything that was underhanded or anything. Joe's the chair. I needed an answer, so I polled the Finance Committee. Though a couple of them were hesitant and they understood the time constraint, they would have rather had it on TV, but we didn't have enough time to do that in order to get the warrant done. So I did it. They all agreed. I know I would have rather had it in public, but I have a paper trail that proved that I polled the Finance Committee. So there's nothing underhanded or corrupt or anything like that involved in this.
And then just sort of an addendum, so that you know, the number that we put in the warrant was $87,802, but that also includes the benefit package. Because if you take out the benefits, which would have been other places in the warrant, it comes down to a budget of $78,000. Because that's how much money is in, you know, the Social Security and retirement and family medical leave. So there's only really $78,000 in that budget, because in the rest of the budgets, those numbers for Social Security, retirement, and family medical leave aren't included in their
Well,
budgets.
actually, I had to do a new budget for it under 602.
Yeah.
So I had to put everything there.
Right.
Because we
Yeah.
talked about a truck, wages, retirement, Social
Yep.
Security,
Yep.
and the 1% we got to add
Right.
on for the state. So, I mean, it was a quick budget that we put.
And he's going to, like I said last time, he's going to be submitting a timesheet. And, you know, so it, you know, that was just an estimate to cover the expenses that we felt would come up,
Potential costs.
potential costs for the year. So,
Anything else? Well, hopefully it will not snow, and then you won't have to spend the money.
Well, I'll tell you, with the way the cold weather's coming.
it may snow tomorrow.
It may snow tomorrow.
Okay,
I think we just had a moment to name that tune.
Is there anybody on Zoom or
That's good,
anybody got
that's-
any questions about Article 6?
6.
Article 7, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $1,564,112 for emergency services provided by the Hollis Municipal Fire and Rescue Department?
I just did.
Yep.
Terry Walters, Hollis resident. Thank you, Becky, that was very constructive. I just wanted to clarify something on Article 7.
Sure.
See if I understand it correctly. I'm all in favor of the fire department and what they do for the town.
Mm-hmm.
But that figure there, in my understanding, is that does not include capital improvements such as new fire trucks and ambulances, because that's goes
That's
to
true,
TIF.
yeah,
So actually, their budget is considerably higher than
yeah,
this figure. Okay.
yeah.
So currently,
But those fire equipment and the ambulances and stuff come out of the TIF fund right now. Yeah.
But their total budget then is considerably bigger than that.
Right.
Yes.
Mhm.
so just to compare them, we have Lyman Dayton comes in at 1,242,828. Standish is 2,358,444. Buxton is 2,460,779. So we're kind of in the low.
And that's what I was trying to clarify, Roger. Like Standish might not have a TIF.
Right.
Right,
So
so
are we
that
comparing-
includes their,
I just wanted to have
Yeah.
an apples and apples.
right,
Well, and you're absolutely correct, Terry. After the TIF runs out in the next 5 years, that is going to become something that, as we go forward, it will be a plan that we're going to need to start putting money aside for large capital expenditures like that.
I'm not complaining about this figure. I just want people to realize.
Oh,
that it
no,
doesn't
no.
include
I
fire
just wanted
trucks.
to give you a little more info on the comparison of the surrounding towns.
Right. Article 8, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $127,640 for general assistance to the state mandated welfare program. And that's an increase of up $950. Just to explain a little bit, like in 23-24, our final budget was $131,211.27. We got reimbursed by the state 70% of what our applicant expenses were, and that was, we got back $91,847.89, and we paid $39,363.38. So we do get 70% back from the state, and that's reflected in our revenues, so. And those are probably going to shelters and the food banks and other things, because people are really having a hard time making ends meet and being able to afford to live. Any questions on general assistance? Article 9, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $80,000 for non-municipal requests? And as we said last time, we somehow missed Hollis Center Public Library is usually its own warrant article, and somehow we didn't get it in the warrant, so we had to add it at the top of the non-municipal requests. So for the Hollis Center Public Library is $40,000, and then there's multiple other non-municipal requests. And all of those people do a lot, most of the ones that all of them that we provide money to do a lot for our town. I mean, I use York County Community Action, I use them a lot. They do the heat fund, they do the heat, they do community services, they provide heat, utilities, they give electricity, funding, all kinds of things. So all of them, I think, are very worthwhile to invest in a little bit of money. Any questions on that?
Rita Bradbury from the River Road. Guess the paperwork is just confusing to me because when you add them all up, it says 40,000 under 2526, and then there's a handwritten 20,000 underneath, and then in the right-hand column it says 80,000 amended. So, what is the total amount, and what is the 80? Is it going to be 80,000 we're voting on, and what was it last year? That's what I got on this paper that was in the entryway.
Yeah, for somehow I missed that, Rita, on the 40,000.
Yeah.
Last year was 72,925.
So I got 40,000 here, 20,000 here. I mean, the total says
do you have an old one?
37,000. Over here it says 80,000 amended on 5/6/25.
Right. And this is what it should look like.
So is this an old one?
Probably. Yeah. Here's a new one.
So the new,
I don't want to take yours, but
Oh, I've got
I
one.
didn't know there was old and new ones.
no, the new amount, it was 40,000 without the library, and the library is 40,000.
All right.
Sorry about that.
No, it's just really confusing. And I guess, hi, Mr. Moran. My name is Rita Bradbury, and welcome to the town of Hollis. One of the concerns I'm just going to raise again, nobody probably wants to hear it, but I do want Mr. Moran to hear it, is that I do know that under non-municipal requests with the Hollis Center Library, there's been a debate every year about giving money to non-municipal library when we have a municipal library, and I love both libraries. I'm not going to critique either library, but it's been a work in progress that we've tried to blend the libraries, make use of similar resources. And I guess at some point, I would love to see accountability, how many people use which library, and are they used to the fullest amount? And I know one is stronger for children, one is stronger for audiobooks, blah, blah, blah. You know, can we blend the services? So that's just my comment I'd like to make. Thanks.
Thank you. That came up last time also.
Good evening. Nancy Ponzetti, been a resident from of the town of Hollis since 1983. I'd like to address two issues. One is the library and the historical significance of the Salmon Falls Library, and what the town is willing to do to preserve that. And then secondly, as the president of the Buxton Hollis Historical Society, I would like to explain what we do. I know a question came up last year, and I heard it after the last meeting. What are we giving money to a historical society for? What do they do for us? So I'd like to answer both of those, if you don't mind. And on behalf of the Historical Society, Mr. Moran, welcome. I know you're from Kennebunk, got a lot of friends down there at that Historical Society as well, and hope you'll come and visit us very soon. The Salmon Falls Library has existed since 1911. At the time, it was a derelict eyesore building purchased by Kate Douglas Wiggin and her sister Nora Archibald Smith. The two sisters put their money together. Kate, if you didn't know who she is, wrote Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, wrote over 50 books, Broadway plays, musical composition. She played the organ and piano, sang beautifully. And the two sisters pooled their money from their literary efforts and musical efforts to restore that building, with the intention of it being not only a library, but Hollis's very first kindergarten. It was also a school. On the second floor, there were over 2,000 books that the people of Hollis could borrow for the first time without having to pay for a book or without having to pay for a library card. The first kindergarten, the first school children in Hollis went to that library. And over the years, a Mrs. William Moulton opened up a tea room on the first floor. And that was the first tea house or tea room in the town on the banks of the Saco River. Later on, they would build the Indian Cellar Tea House in 1934, which unfortunately has been moved to Bar Mills. I'm glad it was moved, and I'm very happy it was saved. I just wished it was saved on this side of the river. It's not so much the issue anymore of which library does what. It is the historical significance and the preservation of a building that has meant so much to this town's history and has been so vital in the life of one of Hollis's most famous historical residents. Now, the Friends of the Salmon Falls Library used to be in charge of the library. and they had a board, and the board of directors was in charge of the library. Not that many years from now, or years ago, the library's running was taken over by the town. It went back to the town, and the select board oversees the library. Last year, the town voted overwhelmingly to appropriate $50,000 to repair the siding on the library. And that money has not gone away. It has been carried forward to next year as estimates have been gotten and work is being planned. The Friends of the Salmon Falls Library had their annual board meeting approximately 2 weeks ago. And we, luckily me, we're working on a grant to add to that $50,000 to do a real refit of that library. The Friends do realize, and so does the Buxton Hollis Historical Society, that that purpose of that library will have to be examined in the future. And for us right now, it's a matter of preserving the building, whether it's going to be used in the future as a library or part of the Conservation Commission, Indian Cellar Trail. That's what we are working on right now. So I know the issue of the two libraries comes up all the time. Hollis Center, it has a private board. It is not a municipal library. They do their own fundraising, and it's a great place. They've managed to raise money, and they've redone the whole downstairs for their children's center. But the Salmon Falls Library needs to stay where it is. And we're working very hard to try to help the town get extra funding so that it's not a burden on taxpayers. Now, as far as the Buxton Hollis Historical Society, we begin our public season in April. We go until November. We're open to the public every Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. and by appointment only. If you can't make it on Thursdays, we'll be happy to meet you there and let you in. We offer approximately 6 educational programs every year. Last night we had one on local railroading that drew over 40 people. Program we did in April, there were over 60 people in the building. Our programs at one point in time drew 7 or 8 people, but we're growing. And for the town of Hollis, what we have just finished, and I thank Rita Bradbury in public, as well as the other volunteers who worked on it, we have finished the Hollis roadside survey that we have been working on for years. Thank you, Rita. Buxton had a grant. Buxton has a lot more deep pockets, I think, than Hollis. And the Buxton roadside survey was finished with private grants, and it was done quickly. Hollis has been pure volunteer, and all of the money for publication, for photographs. We did over 400 or so houses. Any house in Hollis that is over 50 years old will be listed in this roadside survey. It will then be scanned to the state of Maine Preservation Commission. The reason we do this is anytime there's a project that involves federal or state funding, for example, the traffic light on 202 and 35, the state has to do an architectural and archaeological survey to make sure that the proposed project does not interfere with any historic or archaeological sites. And it takes time and the project gets delayed. Well, by the state now having this Hollis roadside survey that the Historical Society volunteers have completed and are in the process of scanning to the state, anybody with a house that's over 50 years old might be able to apply for tax credits or grants. And that's what we have done for the town of Hollis. So if you have a house that's over 50 years old and you're in the Hollis roadside survey, please contact the Historical Society, and we would be more than happy to help you if you need money for tax credits, or possibly you need to rehab a historic site. There's ways that we can maybe help you get a few dollars. And I thank you very much for the time, and I hope to see all of you at the Historical Society. Our next program on June 17th features Elizabeth DeWolf, and it's all about mistresses and spies in the Gilded Age in Washington, D.C. So considering we have mistresses and spies, I'm expecting a full house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, just one notation on that, the library over the wintertime here, the heat pump broke, so I ended up using a little bit of that $50,000 when I talked to the finance committee about it, we had to replace the heat pump. So there's about around 45,000 left. Just to let you know where the money went.
And the reason we've delayed in replacing the siding is because we need to get the roof done before we can do the siding, and we really want to have the funds available in case we open up the siding and have more problems than we anticipated. So,
And I know, Jack, you were looking at the windows too at the same
Overall, it
time.
was
Yeah.
roof, siding, windows, and when contractors looked at it, that you might be opening up a can of worms, so
sort of like we do it, I guess, with this
Hopefully.
building. I wasn't here for this building, but I heard that it was a can of worms when they opened it up and found mold. And
hopefully we can go forth with that.
so Article 10, shall the town vote to authorize the tax collector to charge interest on unpaid taxes at a rate of 7.5% per annum, set November 5th, 2025 and May 6th, 2026 as the dates on which one half of taxes shall be due and payable, with interest commencing on the first half on November 19th, 2025 and the second half on May 20th, 2026. Except prepayment of taxes not yet committed pursuant to 36 MRS Section 506, provided that the town will not apply interest on such collections. Set the interest rate to be paid by the town on the refunded overpayment of taxes for the 2025-2026 fiscal year, set at 3.5%, and apply all tax payments to the oldest outstanding taxes first. Any questions on Article 10? And most of those percentages are set by the state. You're up.
Article 11, shall the town vote to accept and apply $3,637,300 of the following non-property tax revenues to reduce the total amount authorized to be raised by taxation as detailed below? And these are where the anticipated revenues generated by the town come into play. And those are added up and put against the tax commitment. Any questions on that?
And as you can see, Parks and Rec really had a big increase from going from 190 to 255, so.
We had a good increase on the Betty reimbursement also, and these are projections over the years. I look at the number trends on where the numbers are going, and that's how it gets projected.
Any questions on Article 11? Article 12, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $75,000 for the building of pickleball courts at the sports complex? So what they want to do is they want to build 4 outdoor handicapped accessible pickleball courts at the sports complex, so then they can have tournaments, because there's really no place in the state that has handicapped accessible pickleball courts. They're a little bigger, so they don't run into the fences with their chairs, and they think that it would be a real benefit to both Hollis and the state to be able to have tournaments and have the pickleball courts at the sports complex. And as you probably are aware, pickleball is the up-and-coming sport.
Now with this, they have some money also, and they've applied for grants, so once they get that, if we are to appropriate this money, then it would be another matching grant, correct?
Right, so they're
Yep.
trying to get enough money to be able to apply for a grant that they have to have in by the end of June. And actually, that grant is still in operation because we got notified about the grant today that it's still available because we were concerned it might not be available. So Article 13 goes with Article 12, and this is the required article that we need to be able to apply for the grant. Shall the town vote to authorize the select board to apply on behalf of the Hollis Sports Complex Committee for federal financing assistance under provisions of the Land and Water Conservation Fund Act, Public Law 88-578 for the building of the pickleball courts of Hollis Pickleball, and further authorize select board to enter into the Land and Water Conservation Fund project agreement with the state subsequent to federal approval of the project. So the money is sort of funneled through the town and then gets paid to the vendor. And we do it with much smaller grants for like the snowmobile people and the ATV people will come in and have us sign paperwork because they can't get the money directly. It has to go through the town. Any questions on Article 12 or 13?
Can I say something on that article?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I just want to mention this. This could be a revenue maker for the town, plus the pickleball folks, if you look at it. I mean, you could be selling tickets, you could charge for parking. They draw a big crowd when they have their tournaments. So it could be beneficial to both parties, to tell you the truth.
Because the total cost of the courts are going to be about $225,000, so they're just trying to raise at least half, and they've had fundraisers, they've had raffles, they've applied for grants. It's very competitive with some of the grants to apply for them.
But the other thing about this, if this does come to fruition, this will be the very first in the state of Maine having 4 handicapped pickleball courts.
Full disclosure, I don't play pickleball.
Okay.
Probably never will. But I see the people up there all the time using it. It's apparently very popular in town, and I support the idea. But what Jack just said, it could be a moneymaker. We probably ought to have some kind of thought go into the process that if they start charging and they start raising money, how this money is going to be received and administered, and who's going to be in charge of it, just in who gets what, just so that something's in place.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yes. And I
Thank
would
you.
imagine, Terry, if this comes, you've got 3 moving pieces here that have to be approved before we can do it.
Exactly.
And then, if it comes to that point, then we'd have to sit down and do that.
Article 14 is an article that we put on every year because it authorizes us to get grants and donations. So Article 14, shall the town vote to authorize the select board on behalf of the town to apply for and accept grants, donations, gifts, devices, or bequests from any individual, organization, or governmental body for municipal purposes, including when necessary, the authority to sign grants, contracts, documents, or other paperwork, and accept the conditions that accompany such funds, and to appropriate and expend grant funds for authorized purposes as the select board deems in the best interest of the town. And we do apply for a lot of grants. Some of them aren't, like millions of dollars, but we apply for a lot of grants from the Risk Management Fund, from Narragansett, from Wilkinson Foundation, to support our town activities. So, Article 15, shall the town vote to authorize the select board to carry forward specific account balances from the current year to the same article accounts for the ensuing year for the specific purpose of each account.
And the example that just came up was the library, the fixing of the library that Nancy just said. Even though our year ends June 30th, that money is still going to be there to carry forward to take care of that project that it's specifically intended for.
And sometimes you'll have things that, don't get done in June, that you still have bills for in July or August, so you want to carry the money forward so you can finish the project.
A big example of that is paving. We could be scheduled in June, but they don't get to it until July, but we have an agreement, so.
Any questions on Article 15? Article 16, shall the town vote to appropriate funds from the registration of snowmobiles to the Hollis Snowmobile Club for the purpose of maintaining Hollis's snowmobile trails. And any articles where there's money involved, they have to be on the warrant every year. So that's why that's there every year. But so we get the money back from the state, and then we give it to the Snowmobile Club for the trails. You can do the next couple.
Okay. Shall the town authorize the select board to appropriate from the TIF tax increment financing account 2025 as they deem advisable to fund and meet unanticipated expenses or emergencies that are clearly outlined and authorized by the TIF agreement. And with that, if we spend any money, we usually contact the finance committee, and they're involved in the expenditure also. Any questions? Go ahead.
I'm going to ask an aside question first
Sure.
which is public comment. A couple months ago, I approached the select board and asked if we could have a question on the warrant to put a sidewalk in the Salmon Falls Bridge while the bridge is being built. It's a unique opportunity. And I was pretty sure we got agreement of all three selectmen that it would be on, and I'm just wondering why it isn't.
The cost. Buxton refused to go along with it.
That has nothing to
So-
do with putting it on the warrant.
Yep, and then-
When I was told that the three selectmen agreed to put it on the warrant to see if the town of Hollis people would want to have that as an expenditure, the three selectmen agreed, and I walked out of the office with full confidence that it would be on this ballot.
Yep, and upon further review and consideration and looking at that, we changed our mind.
I wish
And-
somebody had contacted me, because I did not pursue it anymore, knowing that with full confidence it was going to be there. Until last week when I looked at the whole warrant, it wasn't there. It was too late to approach you guys. So I wish if something like that happens, you come back to the people and say, we've changed our minds, this is why. I'm not the only person who is requesting this, and it's a big safety issue at Salmon Falls. Everybody who crosses that bridge takes their life into their hands, and it's happened to me several times on bike, in car, and other reasons. And anyways, I don't want to go down that little rat hole. I have to say that if it wasn't going to be on the warrant, I wish somebody had contacted me. Maybe I would have brought up and had a petition signed to put it on, but I did not know it was not going to be on there. Anyways, getting back to this question.
Okay.
I have a question about the TIF account and how to use it here, which seems very appropriate. One of the discussions I had about the sidewalk was maybe we could use TIF money, and people are like, no. And then I'm like, well, we got a new town hall, we use some TIF money for that, yes. It's very muddled. We have a gift of a TIF, and we earned it because we put up with that business in town. And I think that not just myself, but everybody needs clarity. We need to hear clearly where we stand with the TIF. I heard the TIF rules change, and that's why we could apply some of it to a building this year. I asked, could we use a TIF for sidewalk, which is a safety thing, which is a public use thing, which is a needed thing? Oh, no, we can't do that. So I like clarity, and it doesn't have to be today. At some point, it's a very hard thing to understand. It's a very useful gift Hollis has. And here, it seems like a really good use. Unanticipated expenses, emergencies, and authorized by the TIF agreement, but I understand the TIF agreement changed. And it is continuing to change year by year about how much we get and, when it will end. And anyways, just asking for, at some point, a review of the TIF
Okay.
for clarity to
Alrighty.
the public. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Because the reason we had it on the warrant last year was so that we could get funding for the municipal building. We had to change the TIF to get that funding for the municipal
And
building last year.
I and many people are deeply grateful for that.
Yeah.
And we're deeply grateful, getting back to grants, of the $2 million grant you got for
Thanks.
the municipal building and for getting the municipal
Well,
building.
everybody in the town hall wrote that, so.
It's my chance to say thank you for
You're
this,
welcome.
all that work.
But
Thank you.
everybody in the town hall worked on that and rewrote it and reworded it and
And you made a difference.
finalized it. So they all should be thanked.
Yes, everybody thank you.
Article 18, shall the town vote to authorize the select board to appropriate and from the unassigned fund balance up to $200,000 as they deem necessary to fund and meet unanticipated expenses or emergencies that may occur with the unanimous vote of the select board and the approval of the finance committee on each occurrence. No
And we don't
questions?
use that very often, but every once in a while, we did go to them this year because we needed some windows replaced in the little building next to the concession stand. Last fall, they had to literally nail the windows shut. And the windows in the basement of this building need to be replaced because the frames are starting to fall out. So we asked them for some funding for that. So.
Okay. Article 19, shall an ordinance entitled 2025 Amendments to the Zoning Ordinance of the Town of Hollis, Maine, eliminating cluster subdivisions be enacted?
Cluster housing, we've talked about this for 5 or 6 years now. It's been on the ballot many times. It's becoming an annual event like black flies and fiddleheads. We have opponents, and we have an awful lot of people in town who are confused, don't know what it is, don't know the benefits of it. The select board, the planning board, and the conservation commission all put out position papers. We're gonna vote in June. If we vote to get rid of it, we get rid of a very valuable land use planning tool. If we vote to keep it, we vote to endorse a very poorly written ordinance that does not even meet the objectives of cluster housing. So it's a no-win situation. So my proposal is let's make some lemonade out of lemons. Let's get people on board, and particularly the planning board, and let's write a good cluster housing ordinance. Let's have public hearings, let's have input, and let's have a model ordinance. You know, I've never heard anyone say that Hollis has a model cluster housing ordinance. And I'll tell you, this winter I watched a lot of planning board meetings, and there was a lot of time wasted on cannabis and things, and I don't think that's the priority for the town. So I think this is a very important issue in town. I think it's going to be more important as there's more development in town. We should be prepared for it, but we should do it right. And let's stop arguing about it. Let's sit down after the election, whether it wins or it loses. We're going to have a new select board, a new town manager. Let's write a good ordinance, and next year, let's put an amended ordinance on the ballot to vote on. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jerry.
Terry.
Anybody on Zoom or any place?
Article 20, shall an ordinance entitled 2025 Amendments to the Floodplain Management Ordinance for the Town of Hollis, Maine, be enacted?
And as many of you may remember, this was on last year's warrant also, and it was sent to us from the state, and we had adopted so that people would be eligible to get flood insurance, and they just amended it again and basically changed in the article that she didn't need a professional engineer because they couldn't find enough professional engineers to work with the program, to just a qualified professional who was able to do the work. So that was the basic change, so we just need to have it amended again.
Article 21, shall an ordinance entitled 2025 Amendments to the Zoning Ordinance of the Town of Hollis, Maine regarding affordable housing developments be enacted?
Last year when we implemented LD 2003, which had 3 parts, we were told by Southern Maine Planning and Development that we weren't identified as a town that needed to have affordable housing. But then we found out that our comprehensive plan had 2 areas in town that were identified as growth areas, and that's the Hollis Center Village and the North Hollis Village. So we're required, according to LD 2003, to enact this ordinance, and we were provided with funding to be able to enact all the, to implement LD 2003. So if we don't pass this ordinance and amend our zoning ordinance, we'll have to reimburse the state the $5,000 that they provided us. And you know how I hate to give money back. I mean, I just hate it.
Becky?
Becky Bowley, Timberlane. So on all these ordinances that are here, do we not usually see select board recommends, planning board
We
recommends?
don't, we were told by legal we no longer have to do that.
Okay.
That is not required and that we're not really supposed to be doing that
Oh,
on
okay.
the
Perfect.
warrant. Yep,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Good question.
Any others on that article? Article 22, shall an ordinance entitled 2025 Amendments to the Zoning Ordinance of the Town of Hollis, Maine regarding adoption of amendments be enacted?
Tom Wakowski, resident, Cape Road. Just a quick reminder, Article 22 is the same thing that the residents voted down last November already, just renamed. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure everybody remembered that.
We're aware
Thank
of
you,
that,
guys.
Tom, thank you. And the reason it's back on is because it doesn't go with a state statute or a legal case that was seen in the state. If we don't have a charter, we can't have an ordinance that says that you have to have a 2/3 majority if the planning board disagrees with one of the warrant articles. So that's not legal at this time because we don't have a charter. Yep. Yep.
Hello.
Hello, Christy.
Hi. So can you explain why the sex offender ordinance is on the warrant this year and why we're being asked to reduce the distance from 1,250 feet to 750
We'd be
feet?
more than happy to explain that when we get to that article.
Okay.
We're on at Article 22 right now. So when we get to that article, we'll be more than happy to explain that. Okay?
Any other on Article 22? Article 23, shall an ordinance entitled 2025 Amendments to the Town of Hollis, Maine Fireworks Ordinance be enacted? No comment? We rewrote this. Last ordinance had 2 lines. This one kind of spells out everything that goes along.
Sort of allows us to have professional fireworks, like we have a community day, which we really didn't have anything to cover us before, and lays out what the professional organization has to do as far as working with the fire department to make sure that it's safe to have the fireworks on the day that they schedule them or to reschedule if the winds are too high or it's too dry or there's fire danger.
So there's two things. We added the other piece where not only does the fire marshal have to approve it, the fire chief in town has the final say, and he needs to approve it also.
On the day of.
Right.
Okay, Article 24. Shall an ordinance entitled 2025 Amendments to the Town of Hollis Automobile Graveyard and Junkyard Ordinance be enacted?
And this basically was just to get it up to the MRSA, the appropriate numbers and stuff. It really doesn't change the article at all. Most of these are because they're a little outdated, and we have a legal team called Codify who's going through all our ordinances and our policies and trying to combine them so we have them in a book so it'd be easier to find information. And so they've done the first review, and then our legal team also went through all the ordinances with us. So there'll probably be more next year.
All set. Any other comments? Article 25, shall an ordinance entitled 2025 Amendments to the Solid Waste Ordinance be enacted?
And this is sort of an article that basically talks about trash pickup and what days of the week it's picked up and how it's picked up and how you have to put it at the roadside and all that. And it had a lot of stuff that we didn't have anymore, like we don't have those wonderful bullets where they never had room for anything you brought over. We don't have a transfer station. We don't have a town dump anymore. So it got rid of a lot of language that wasn't applicable anymore.
Okay. Next article. Article 26. Shall an ordinance entitled 2025 Amendments to the Town of Hollis Solid Waste Flow Control Ordinance be enacted?
And this sort of is similar to Article 26, and a lot of things, Article 25, a lot of the things were outdated and just need to be updated. So they just made recommendations on what should be excluded because it wasn't, a lot of the definitions weren't then in the body of the ordinance itself.
No questions? Article 27. Shall an ordinance entitled 2025 Amendments to the Ordinance of Naming of Roads and Numbering of Properties be enacted?
And originally when 911 came out, they used to have committees that would sit together and decide how to name the roads and how to number their houses. And now our code enforcement officer does that with the help of the fire department and the road commissioner. So it just gets us out of having to have a committee.
Okay, Article 28, shall an ordinance entitled 2025 Amendments to the Sex Offender Ordinance for the Town of Hollis be enacted?
So in answer to Christie's question, the state statutes changed, and we're required by the state to go with the state statute. And it changed the distance from 2,500 feet to 750 feet. And there's only certain things that you can do on the ordinance itself.
Okay,
Hands up.
hand up.
Sure.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. And can you tell us what year the state law went into effect?
Oh, let's see.
2017.
27, thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was, when I just looked into it, it was 2009.
Well, on the very bottom of the paper, because I pulled the statute up, it says 2017, Chapter 393, subsection 1. So the last time it was updated was 2017.
Okay, but it became a law in Maine in 2009, I believe.
Yeah, but they've changed it since then, so they've changed the law.
Okay, and then who uncovered the issue? You said you have a legal team that is going through everything.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And are you guys going to be transparent about what else is discovered that is not up to code or not in compliance with state laws?
Yeah, that's why we're updating a lot of the ordinances that are on the ballot this year.
And do you think that it would be better just to be transparent with the residents to explain when this became a state law and why it needs to be changed? Because as a mother, just seeing that you guys want to reduce the distance, it's alarming. But I do think it's important to give all of the facts to support why this needs to be done.
We can usually, it's just catching up with things that need updating, Christie. And usually, when you write an ordinance, it can be more restrictive than state statute, not less. So the state has set the 750-foot mark, and we have to abide by that.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Christy?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nancy.
Nancy Ponzetti, Hollis resident again since 1983. This particular ordinance really struck home when I read it. I was a teacher for over 40 years. I was called to testify in court about a 6th grade boy who was being molested by the man who lived with his mother. Unfortunately, the family fled and went to Canada. And so the case was dropped and I was not called to testify. For anyone in this town to post on Facebook that I defend the rights of sex offenders is reprehensible, and that person should not be elected to public office. How dare you say that I defend the rights of sex offenders, or that I stand with the state? If you only knew what I would like to do with sex offenders, it would involve castration and an isolated island.
Okay.
In this town, if you are that concerned about protecting children, and I've taught them all from kindergarten to high school and college, look at the Maine State Sex Offender Registry. Type in the town Hollis. There are 14 men on that registry right now. Not all of them live in Hollis. Some of them, though, work in Hollis. They have their name, their picture, their offense, and how long that they will stay on the registry. Another issue that's being taken out or amended in this ordinance is that they must register for life. Unfortunately, that is not true. The state changed that as well.
Right.
There are some who only have to register for 10 years. And those are more the statutory rape offenses. If you are that concerned about protecting the children in this town, look at those men's pictures, contact the police at the bottom of the page, and you'll find out their address where they live. And you will know if there is a sex offender living close to you. This is very personal for me. I have 2 adorable grandchildren, ages 6 and 8, that unfortunately lived near one of these sex offenders here in town. If I had my way, he wouldn't be there. This is Title 30A under ordinances, chapter 141.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a question, do your homework, which is what I always tell my students. Don't tell half-truths, and don't accuse people of defending sex offenders when you do not know what they have had in their past. And like I said, I was going to be called twice to have to testify. I can't help it if the state changed the law. It was 2009 and again in 2017. You want to know the answer? Do your homework. And as I said, and I'll say this publicly, I have only voted for one Republican in my entire life. I intend to vote for another one, for select board. And I want to bring Jack back
Okay.
because of what he has done for this town. And especially what he has done in trying to save money and save the children in this town, when the issue of safety with the construction of that town hall, had this man come out on a day off and cut down trees so the kids could cross the street from the school. And I apologize for being this emotional, but I am an Irish woman, and I have a temper. And I hope the person who claimed that I defended sex offenders' rights in public and on a public forum would have the balls to apologize. Thank you for and I apologize for my crudeness.
That's fine. Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks.
Piggybacking on the wonderful Nancy Ponzetti, 15 sex offenders living and working in town of Hollis. Between them, 43 sex crimes that they've been convicted of. I think we should be doing everything we can to protect the children of Hollis, regardless of whether it goes in the face of state law. I will stand by that forever. I think if you are supporting this change in any way, you're not supporting the children in the town of Hollis. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Joe Ponzetti, Salmon Falls Road. I think you also ought to mention that this is a state legislative issue. It is not a town issue. We have to be in compliance with the state, or we could jeopardize a lot of our town funding. So it's not a matter of just voting your conscience or your feelings. You have to do it correctly. And that is talk to your state legislatures. Change it in Augusta. That's where it came from, not the town of Hollis. Don't put the town of Hollis in jeopardy for funding because you want a grandstand. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got a hand raised.
Christy? Christy?
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. So just piggybacking on that, you just want to be compliant with state law, but this became an effective state law in 2009. So why has it taken 16 years for this to be brought up in the warrant article?
I didn't pick
Well-
up the packet.
Well, this was brought to our attention by our legal team, Codify. Sometimes we don't get to review all the ordinances as often as we should. and we are not aware of the changes in the state as often as we should be. And hopefully with Codify, what they'll do is when we write any policies or ordinances, they will be reviewing it for state law and federal law to make sure that we're compliant with both laws.
Christie, it's basically a work in progress. We're trying to catch up on a lot of things that need to be corrected, and this is one of them. And a number of the ordinances, and with Codify, and we changed our legal team too. So he's been reviewing a lot of our ordinances and making recommendations also. So we are, as a board, working to bring everything up to date and correct things.
And so
And
when Codify gave the response back, Christie, they said, don't even try to rewrite it, just ditch it and start from scratch, because even trying to rewrite it would be not worth your time or effort.
I guess this just seems like a pattern to me, because this is not the first time that I've seen some compliance failures with the town. And something that's been frustrating for us is that when these have been uncovered, I don't feel like we were supported by the town. It was just kind of brought back to refer back to the lawyer or legal consult, which again just has me worried about. We have elected officials that we are supposed to trust that want to take care of our residents, but it just seems like a lot of decisions are being made by your legal team and not by the people we're actually electing and what your residents are asking for.
Right, and I apologize, but I only have so much time in my day to do that. And I think that now that we have a town manager, we'll be able to be more proactive with updating things and keeping them in compliance. And I know that our code enforcement officer is fairly new with the whole, he worked in Portland, but he had one specific assignment in Portland. Now he has the whole thing. He has all the building codes and all the codes, and I think that he's doing an excellent job, and he never ever gives a violation notice or any other thing without really researching and making sure that he knows what the state laws are and all the nuances of the laws are. So I think that he's made a big difference in holding people to what the laws are and what the requirements are and the regulations.
The state legislature every session deals with about 2,500 bills, and it's impossible to keep up with everything that goes on up there. And your legislator doesn't know what's going on unless he's on a particular committee. And I know in my profession, I have to review the regulations that they pass relating to land use, but it's impossible. So you're never going to keep current. In fact, we could change these now, and the next session in the legislature, they could change it again.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you're doing the best you can, and with this legal review, that's helpful, but it's a moving target.
Thank you,
It
Terry.
is.
Anything else, Christie? Okay.
All right, next article, Article 29. Shall an ordinance entitled Food Sovereignty Ordinance for the Town of Hollis, Maine be enacted? No questions? Okay. Article 30. Shall an ordinance entitled Town of Hollis Disbursement Ordinance be enacted?
And this basically is with the change from a 3-member select board to 5 members. We needed to figure out how we were going to sign the disbursement warrant, which is where we pay our bills. And it's going to require 3 people, so we just wanted to have guidance on how that would be done.
Again, a change, so we're updating it. Okay. Proposed ordinances 19 to 30 are available for review and inspection, plus there are copies up there on the table. I'm sorry. Article 31, to see if the town will vote to set the annual salary of the tax collector for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026 to a sum not to exceed $37,700, reflecting an hourly wage of $25 per hour. Note, this sum reflected part of the total budget for the tax collector's office in Article 3.
Okay,
Kristen Eber?
sure.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is all new to me, so I'm a couple articles behind before I finally figured it out.
Okay.
gonna
Welcome to my world. I never can figure out where the hand is, and then if I
Right.
get it up, I can't put it down. So,
Can somebody explain this food sovereignty thing to me? I don't understand. Like, I read the article several times, and I just don't get it. Like, if I wanted to sell eggs at the end of my driveway, how does that apply to me? Or if I wanted to put up a stand, I actually have my state kitchen license. If I
right.
wanted to, instead of going to a market, if I wanted to sell bread and pastries that I usually sell at the market at the end of my driveway.
Right, you can sell them and it basically is to allow people to be able to sell food and not, they can't sell poultry or meat products, but food, jams, stuff like that, to be able to sell them without having to have the health inspector inspect your facility.
Okay, well, he comes and does that.
But Tom's going to give you more information.
Okay.
Hi, Tom Wachowski. This was originally put in place, I always forget the year, a number of years back in the state of Maine. It was to make it easier for local people to sell stuff they create or stuff they make and grow on their property to residents around them without as many restrictions. Any meat and poultry still needs to be processed at a USDA facility. As it is now, it just gives you the ability to sell the meat and poultry unless legal changed the ordinance that I submitted originally, which truthfully I haven't looked at. As far as baked goods go, you're still required by the state of Maine to get a home kitchen license if you're Yep, if you're cooking, banana bread, stuff like that, ready to eat foods being prepared with with safe ingredients that aren't raw meat and stuff like that. So you still need to be inspected by the state of Maine for baked breads and such. Eggs, you're free to sell, from what I understand, completely. And then again, meat, poultry, anything like that still has to be processed by a USDA facility. It just allows you to sell cuts of meat instead of basically the loophole everybody uses now is selling halves or wholes of pigs or cows, etc.
Right, yeah,
so
I'm not selling my meat chickens to anybody else. We raise those for us. I just wanted to make sure it was going to be okay for me to continue to sell. I have regular egg customers, and I didn't want to be doing something I should not be.
No, absolutely. It should protect you more than it does now.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that cover maple syrup?
It should cover maple syrup and all that stuff.
Thanks, Tom.
All righty. So that completes the warrant.
So just a reminder that, you can certainly decide to vote no. You're not hurting me as a person. You're not hurting anybody else. You're just not updating the information that we have available for residents of the town, because none of the changes we made were our individual changes. They were changes where we don't have that anymore, or we don't do that anymore, and so we just needed to update things. But you're certainly welcome to say no if that's what you feel. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to say, going back to that Article 28, I'm not happy to see it, but it's there. I walk out here every time I'm here with the kids, and a lot of times I come out, these kids are yelling my name. I keep a close eye on them all the time. So it's something we have to deal with and keep a close eye on. Because these kids are like my own.
And I think if we want to change it, we need to change it by contacting our
Yep.
representatives. And even though they have 2,000 whatever number of articles, they certainly should be willing to address something that we feel that strongly about.
Keep going after it.
Quick question. If we had a town charter, would that give us the ability to keep it at 2,500 feet?
It depends on what you put in your town charter.
So a town charter would be important if we wanted to make our own rules regarding.
I don't think you can still make your own rules. I think you still have to comply with certain things with the state recommends.
Yeah.
I think it's limited.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it
So
just
there are
gives you
lim-
free.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I think there's still limitations
To it.
even with the charter.
Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You got somebody?
Christine?
Yes, I am curious if everybody decided to vote no on that change, what would happen?
No one would change.
It'd revert back to state statute.
Yep.
Okay, so even if it is voted no, you still have to make the revision.
Well, then it comes the obligation of the state police sheriff's department to enforce it.
To enforce what? Like, is the town fined, or I don't understand what happens if it's not changed.
It's like any other ordinance, it can be brought up again in November.
Okay, because if it's
After
been 6
more-
years.
If it's not changed and someone who is a sex offender moves into town and gets told that they have to be 2,500 feet, they can take us to court and challenge it and win.
Okay, but I mean, you have to have all of those cards aligned for that to happen, because theoretically it's been in place for 16 years longer than it should be and nothing's happened yet. So we could just keep it as it is, and if that instance happens where we have a sex offender wanting to buy a house that's too close to a school, and then they also decide they want to sue the town, and then it actually gets to a court case, then we could talk about updating our ordinances, correct?
Well, we really need to update our ordinances so they're in compliance with state statutes.
Right.
So,
But
you
I
know.
guess, like, why was this one of the primary ones they decided to make priority? Like, out of all of the other things you said, there's so many to go through. Why did they decide, hey, let's start with this one?
Oh, no.
Like,
They
as you
did.
said,
This
I'm a
was-
mother.
this
You
was-
guys love kids, right? So this could wait, right?
No, this was picked up on their first review of the ordinances and policies, and picked up
Who is
as a
they again?
pardon,
I'm sorry, who do you mean by they?
codified.
But we elected you guys, right? You guys are the elected officials, so why are we referring back to a third party?
We're referring back to a legal team who we asked, we hired, and we're paying money to review our ordinances and our.
But you don't have to do what they are suggesting. You're choosing to.
We're choosing to so we can comply with the state law and state statutes.
Okay, I just wanted to understand your thought process. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, me again, Nancy Ponzetti.
Mm-hmm.
According to state statute, it's like the supremacy clause in the Constitution, Article 6. State statute, state law supersedes any town, city, municipal law.
Right.
So what could happen if we vote no when we try to keep it at 2,500 feet? Would be basically the state has the power to declare that ordinance null and void anyway.
Right.
And it also jeopardizes the amount of money, the funding that we get from the state. And if you noticed in Article 11, we are projecting about $500,000 to come back from the state. So, as I said, I don't like this ordinance. It shouldn't, in my opinion, ever have changed.
Right.
But if we do not comply with state law, they can declare it null and void anyway and take away $500,000 from the citizens of Hollis. And if you really want to change it, contact Nathan Carlo and start with him and say, look, we don't like this as citizens of Hollis. You can do it by petition. You can write him letters. We want it changed back in Augusta. And like I said, it's not that I defend sex offenders. But I also don't want to see the citizens of Hollis, who many, as Mary said, are having a hard time right now making ends meet and are relying on general assistance, lose $500,000 because we were too stubborn or too stupid not to comply with state law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to throw one more kicker into this whole thing. Currently, we don't have our own police department. So, who does it fall back on? The Sheriff's Department and the state police. They are going to enforce state statute, not our ordinance. In order for them to enforce our ordinances, you have to either contract with the state police or the Sheriff's Department. So anything that we have here basically falls back onto police department. So we don't have one. So state police are going to enforce the state statutes. And that's where it's going to fall on, unfortunately, until we cross that bridge on whether or not we want to start a police department. So just the last couple of things for thought. Okay.
So please do go out and vote this June. So
Okay.
I need a motion.
I make a motion, we close the public hearing and reconvene the select board meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And that doesn't mean that we won't take public comments.
Okay.
So, under old business, we need to,
Let's see, I was there both days, right?
we need to approve some meeting minutes. March 19th, all of us were here, and April 2nd, all of us were here.
Make a motion, we approve the minute meetings for March 19th and April 2nd.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's see. So we just wanted to announce we have a new administrative secretary for town boards and committees. Her name's Ashley Dow, and she lives here in Hollis, and we hired her maybe, 10 days ago? And so she's been meeting with Bennett on Fridays to get sort of oriented to the town boards and committees. We expanded that job description a little bit so we can use her with not just the Finance and Appeals Board and the Planning Board, but also we have an opportunity with the Conservation Commission to be able to have a secretary to help us with the Community Resilience Grant that they obtained. So that will be very helpful for them. So that's why we expanded the job description.
I got this one.
And
New town hall.
Mr. John Jack
John Jack.
is going to
Jack
give us the new municipal town office update. And maybe before it got dark out, you were able to see the new municipal town office.
First, I'd like to thank Joe Ponzetti for keeping a close eye on this as this building is going up. He's been really attentive, so which is good, and keep it in track of dollar and cents. As you can see, post base bracket, this is what's been completed: timber framing, the entrance, deck on the back. If you look around, truss work, fireproofing, roofing materials. They store that, but you can see some of the metal roofing going on. Started LP Smart siding and trim. Doors and frames were delivered. They're down and back, always inside, stored. Metal framing. Sprinkler roughed in. ductwork, rough and HVAC equipment, electric fire alarm, rough inspection by Brian LaFlamme, and conduit for AV room to electrical room. The next 2 weeks, looking ahead, they're going to continue with the roofing, doing the propane tanks they buried, and they're going to get this one out of here, so they'll all be underground with and be serviced by one company. We got a better deal that way, all propane. Finish grading, drywall, storefronts, elevator, continuous lighting, tile, and bathrooms. I would like to say that hats off to the staff who played a big role in this, selecting colors and interior stuff. I think it's going to be an eye-opener, and they did an excellent job. They really did. And again, Joe, I want to thank you so much for keeping a close eye.
For being there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And straightening me out on all those questions I always have.
Well, his official title is owner's rep, so he's actually
Yep.
the representative for the town that keeps his thumb on, keeps an eagle eye on the money, too.
It is really practical and a functional building, and it's designed to 75 years out, so which is good. So as the town grows and expands, you can accommodate whatever you need.
So on the comprehensive plan committee, we're still reviewing the chapters. They've now expanded the chapters from 4 to 5, but we've gotten 2 of them back, and we went through one of them today, making corrections, and we're going to be sending them back to Southern Maine Planning. Some of them were missing some charts, and our next meeting is going to be May 28th at 10 a.m. in the Town Hall office. And then just to give you an update on some of the reports that we did, we have to do a biannual trash report. And I just wanted to give you some updates on that. We had our recycling went down from 23.4% to 21%, so we're going to be hoping to increase that because we're going to have EcoMaine come and do a presentation. They're going to start charging Amazon and those companies with all the recycling stuff that they send with all their packaging. They're going to start charging them for packaging, and then if we recycle it, we'll be able to get some money back starting in 2027. So I want EcoMaine to come and go over what we recycle, so we start recycling a little bit more than we've been doing. And then we have to do a update. Well, we're supposed to do it yearly, but they finally caught up, so we did 2022, 2023, and 2024 for immigrants and asylum seekers. In 2022, we didn't have any. In 2023, we had 4. Well, we had a total of 6 in 2023, and all of those were gone by 2024, except for 2. We had a total of 6. We had 1 for 8 months, 1 for 9 months, 2 for 10 months, and 2 for 11 months. And if you remember, with most of those, we had to pay for their housing and for their food and non-food items for those months, because when we first got immigrants and asylums in, they couldn't work because they didn't have work permits. So until they get work permits, they can't work, so we have to pay all their expenses. But we don't have anybody currently. And then the other report is, if you remember, we got some money that we used with the town hall, and we call it the opera money, but they call it something else. But we just had to do our final report on that, so we spent all the money we had. So we spent a total of $495,597.55, and we'd use that with our ground work, our earthwork on the new town building. So hopefully that all that money's been spent, because we had to commit it by the end of December and spend it by the end of next year, but we spent it all on our new town hall. So just so you know. And under new business, we're gonna be having a finance committee meeting next week, and we need to do, we need to make a motion, because we have some unanticipated expenses that we need to request for finance committee approval. And, I think we're gonna have a meeting on Wednesday at 6 PM to meet with them.
Correct.
So, do you want to make a motion?
For,
We have to make a motion to meet with them
to have a meeting with the,
Mm-hmm, yep. So it's a motion for
When-
unanticipated expenses request for the finance committee approval, because we all have to unanimously, however you say that word. All of us have to say that
okay. Now
we
I
want
see
to
what
spend
you
the
mean.
money,
I'm
whatever
sitting
you-
there going, wait a
whatever
minute.
that word is.
Yes, we agreed to expend the money. I didn't
So
bring
it's,
that
it's
up.
basically to ask for some money, because when we were doing our budgets, we didn't do simple little things, like we didn't give the maintenance person, he works 25 hours right now, and we think with the new building, we might need him a little bit more than 25 hours, so we're gonna increase him to 40, and just a couple other little financial expenses that we have. So we just need a motion, please.
Do you have the amounts with you?
Nope.
Thank you. I knew I'd forget something. That's why Bennett is right on it.
See, she
Without
keeps
her,
us on
we-
track.
Wow, okay. For the meeting agenda with the Finance Committee, Select Board request $12,903 for general fund go towards the security system. Oh, there's two parts here, sorry, folks. Let's back up for a second
Back up
here.
a minute.
Let me explain the reasoning, and then the other one is the custodian raise. But the first one is, when we started doing the new town hall, we had A&B Lock and our security company put in a bid to do the security systems for the new building. So as we did that, A&B Lock got the contract through the town. So then, instead of having two security people, we decided to go with A&B Lock. So we needed the money to now convert the community building and the sports complex over to A&B Lock. So
Upgrade the system.
they're gonna upgrade it and get everything functioning properly. So we're asking the Finance Committee for $12,903 to be able to upgrade the security systems at here in this building and the sports complex. Part two is we are requesting in the maintenance and for the custodian to 40 hours a week. Currently, he's working 25 hours a week. But with the increased footage in the maintenance, and just to throw another thing, in getting the money, that $2 million from RD, which is rural development, we have to have a plan in place to properly maintain the building that they're spending the federal funds on. So,
And then the third
That's-
thing is gonna be for, we have a couple salary minor increases because we don't have a tax collector. We're gonna have a brand-new tax collector, so some of the people that are deputies are gonna get a slight increase in salaries to cover the increased cost of teaching her, so.
okay. So the increase for the custodian is 19,000. Again, like I said, 12,903 for the community building and sports complex. So these will be discussed in an open meeting next month. Next week. Jeez, falling apart here.
It's too late.
Next week at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. So I make a motion to approve those amounts to present to the Finance Committee.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye. So, sorry, I forgot the.
And then we got something very simple. We have a couple of policy amendments. These were recommended when our legal team was looking at the policies for the disbursement warrant ordinance. He also looked at all our payroll ones, and he has some recommendations. I think there's like 5 policies, but we're only going to do 2 tonight. One is for payroll and disbursement warrants and town charge accounts, and it's a simple change where he recommended on page 3 that we remove something that we were going to fire them if they didn't do it right, that we put instead employee violations of this policy may result in progressive discipline up to and including termination. Yes, if they don't do something right, you can't terminate them immediately. You have to have a process. So I make a motion that we approve policy number 22, payroll and disbursement warrants and town charge accounts as written.
Yes, second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then the other one is policy number 65, and we did this last year when we had the April storms, and we were eligible for some emergency money from EMA, but we had to write a policy to be able to get that money, and he just added a lot of verbiage to it. It used to be a simple 2-paragraph policy, but now it just sort of includes how you're supposed to justify that you spend the money. Because we're supposed to be able to, go out and remove trees and cut down, get power lines back up, and we have to use emergency money sometimes. So we'll post that policy on the webpage and everybody can review it. But I make a motion that we approve the policy as written for non-competitive procurement for exigency or emergency policy. And it was to get money from the EMA for reimbursement for all our storm expenses with that April storm, with the 29 inches of wet, cold snow.
Wet, cold snow.
Jack, second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we're going to give you the exciting news of
How much money we
4
spend.
weeks of payroll and warrant totals, because we didn't do them last time, and
All
purchase
right.
orders.
All right, here we go. Warrant, April 21st, 142,229. April 29th warrant, 63,823. Payroll for April 21st was 34,287. April 29th is 32,174. Purchase orders came in 4427. This was for T-shirts for rec, 1,210.65. 4463. IPS, this is inflatable rescue boat for $2,621. That's for the fire department. 4464. Summer steer tires for the new rescue. 1,269.35. And the reason why we do that is the new rescue came with winter tires on it, which are the large numbie tires, and the way it runs, it eats up those tires in warm weather. So we bought summer tires for the new ambulance. 4513, this one's RMDL, and we had culvert work that needed to be done on Pleasant Hill Road because person's driveway collapsed. $4,000. RMDL, also, we needed to do some ditching on Deal Wonder Road, not to exceed $8,000. That takes care of April. May. Okay, warrant last week, $568,243. That's because we had to pay the school bill. Warrant this week, $804,955. Don't worry, that's part of the new building. $722,000 we paid. Payroll last week was $34,049. Payroll this week is $32,968. Okay, 4515 is the PO of Southern Maine Communications and new multi-band radios. $1,970. And we have IPS annual BLS flow testing of the air packs, which is a state mandate that must be done. PO 4465, $2,079. And that is payroll warrants and purchase orders.
And then I'm going to ask Roger to give you an update on the roads, but just an update on 35. If you're going down towards Plumbers and going down Moderation towards the bridge, they're repaving, and it takes a long time sometimes to get down 35. So just,
35 south of 202 heading towards Dayton. They'll be paving all the way down 35 to the Lyman line. Killett Pond Road will be paved this time. High Street and I believe part of Moderation Street.
And then I thought I saw something today about Mansion.
Oh, yeah. May 27th, the last coat on Mansion Road project, the 700 feet we rebuilt last year, they will be putting the final coat on. And I know some of the people were talking about they moved the property markers, but Grondon told me that they should be coming back with the, they have the stick that has the...
Sounds like.
Jack, I'm drawing a blank.
Okay, anybody know about roads and sticks?
Longitude and latitude, it's programmed in, so they'll get the property markers back in.
So correspondence and announcements, the Real ID notice from Maine Bureau of Motor Vehicles. I think the Real ID went into effect May 7th, maybe, and they were having a lot of people at the motor vehicle registries. So they were asking people to please register their cars at their local office rather than going down to the motor vehicle. And I don't know if they've caught up on those yet, but it was quite a waiting list. Reminder, there will be a public meeting to discuss proposed discontinued roads, Bean Street Extension and Old Alfred Road on Wednesday, June 4th, 2025 at 7 p.m. at the Community Building.
Just to go on that, basically, we've gone through the files and we keep on having these roads come up, so we're going to be making final determinations on some of these roads so that it is actually in the file and we have documentation.
We don't have any other business. Upcoming town committee and board meetings. Comprehensive Plan Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 28th at 10 a.m. Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 28th at 6 p.m. The Planning Board meeting for Wednesday, May 28th has been canceled, and that's been replaced by the Meet the Year's candidates for Select Board and Tax Collector, sponsored by the Hollis Grange, will take place Wednesday, May 28th at 7 p.m. Let's see, Select Board meeting on Wednesday, June 4th at 7 p.m. Annual Town Meeting, MSAD 6 Board of Directors election and budget validation referendum on Tuesday, June 10th at the Hollis Center Church. 388 Hollis Road, polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Comprehensive Plan Committee meeting on Wednesday, June 11th at 11 a.m. Planning Board meeting on Wednesday, June 11th at 7 p.m. and Sports Complex Committee meeting on Thursday, June 12th at 7 p.m. And I think that's it. Any other public comment? Miss Martha.
Martha Huff, Hollis Town Clerk. I just want to mention that I was listening in, I was working over there, that absentee ballots are available. You may call in, and if you use the town line, it's 929-8552, extension 18. Crystal will answer. She can take your ballot order. She's a deputized ballot clerk, deputy clerk, and doing a great job. You do not have to speak to me personally to get your ballot, so I'm trying to get people used to that. She can do everything I can do. So she's manning the phones on that and doing a great job. So you can call to request your ballot, or you can come in and get it in person. There are no electronic requests this time because it is not a state election, and that's only offered when the state, they have the website and the means to do that. We don't have a website and somebody to track that
Yep.
in the town of Hollis. So I just want to say that's why, because I've had a few questions on why can't I get an electronic one this
Right.
time.
And then if you can just review the ballot, change in the ballots.
Oh, sure.
Thanks.
And you can request your absentee ballot up until the Thursday before the election. I didn't bring a calendar with me. At 4 o'clock when we close, that's the last time you can request your absentee ballot. On Friday, it goes to what we call special circumstances, and we can explain that too if you need that. Monday, we're closed, so there's no absentee voting that day. The state does it that way, so clerks have a chance to get ready for the election. The changes on the ballot was recommended to me in 2016 by Julie Flynn, who is the Deputy Secretary of State in charge of elections. And she called me one day after talking to our ballot company and said, "Your ballots are a disaster." And I said, "Thank you." And so she wrote a letter to the select board at that time, and progress is slow. So we've tried to abbreviate them a little bit this time. We have the full warrants available. Bennett has it on the website, done a great job with that. She has all the ordinances on there on the website. Terry Walters posted them this morning at Station House and here at the community building and at Town Hall, so we're all legally posted. And it's just abbreviated. It just doesn't have all the supporting documentation. So we went from 5 or 6 ballots down to 3 for the town. So we're gaining process. I know it'll be a change. We will have that warrant information available on election day. So if somebody has a question, you can look at that. We're not going to ask you to vote blind if you have a question. And I had one other thought, but it's gone. So that happens at this age.
And it's not dogs.
No, it's not. You can license your dog too. Crystal's doing a great job with those as well. She's doing a great job. So I feel very fortunate to have her. And I just want to say that Faith Plummer in the tax collector's office is doing a spectacular job, putting in time, learning, doing all the things that tax collectors need to do. So she's put in a great effort, and I want to thank her for that too. And I offered our help, but we don't know the tax collector anything about it, so we can't register vehicles, we can't help with taxes. So she's done a spectacular job this tax season getting through that. So thank you, Faith. Thank you, Crystal. I thank them both very much.
Yeah, because in addition to doing the tax stuff, we occasionally put in an assessment thing like an abatement or supplement. And I know sometimes you guys have been very patient and waited a couple days for us to be able to process that. But thank you. Anybody else? Roger?
Becky.
Becky.
So,
Okay.
I do have the county figures for you, Roger, if you'd like.
Oh, yeah.
I sent them to them today.
Oh, good.
They got them in email,
Awesome.
and they're posted at Town Hall.
Wow, you are
So
on it.
so it's official, it's still
Well,
360?
no, it's not official till Wednesday, June 4th, because
Yeah, because
we
they
have
have
to
a public hearing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
We should have announced that, so thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I
But,
was
So
already
Wednesday,
doing that.
June 4th, I want to say it's 6?
yes, 6 o'clock. So, you know,
And
just.
that's in Alfred,
Yep,
Becky?
at, I guess, I call it the old jail. It was
It's
the
in
old jail
It's in
building.
the commissioner's building.
Right.
How many people attend that meeting on this committee? Have you ever been to it? You've been to it.
Oh, yeah.
How many people usually attend for the county?
Well, the
Counting the
thing,
people who sit on the budget committee and the commissioners and the people who work for the county, I would say we've averaged 20 to 25 people. The unfortunate thing is the county, there's 29 municipalities in the county, and we're divided into districts, and
Right.
each district has an elected
Okay.
official, a member of the public, which I am, and I don't even know what the third one is. And we don't get,
Two.
there's only 8 or 9 of us
Total.
where you could have 15 people being on this committee. And only 9 of the seats are filled.
And the other drawback to that is if Becky represents Hollis, you can't have a second person from
Right.
Hollis.
Right.
Right.
So
Because Jack and I went to vote for Becky, and we were
Yep.
going to put all of us in, but
They,
they wouldn't let us.
yeah, so it's, by the time it gets to our level, it's quite interesting. I think it's done backwards, because I would think that the county budget committee would do the budget and present it to the commissioners, but instead the commissioners do the budget and present it to the budget committee. So some of the things that have gotten some press is the York County Shelter closing down.
Right.
Even though it was called the York County Shelter, it was not part of the county budget. It was a privately run organization. The commissioners tried to figure out how we could save it, but they weren't able to get the information that they needed. What they have decided to do and has gotten through the budget committee is take over the food pantry for 1 year, and that adds an extra $125,000 to this county budget. And then there's some other changes going on in the county. One of the big ones is that the Layman's Way Substance Abuse Program, which is part of the jail program, where if you commit a crime that has to do with substance abuse, you can kind of get out of a jail card free, but you have to go to this program. And there is so that's shutting down June 30th. They're not adding anybody else to the program. Who is there will graduate by June 30th. And because of use of ARCA funds, or I refer to it as COVID money, there is
Yeah.
a new York County facility being built that will have 56 beds to do with substance abuse for folks associated with the jail population, but also will take private paying. The building is under construction. There's going to be hopefully they can gradually open the building, but there's going to be a lack of program until the new building is built, where they're also building a new EMA building. And the EMA, the emergency building, will help with a lot of programming and things that would have to go up to the police academy or fire and rescue training that could be done regionally versus being done hit or miss by whatever department. I think what I've learned a lot about in the last, this is my 3rd year in this committee, is what EMS actually does for our county. It's a big department. And when the emergency comes, the people respond. So,
is the new facility, the treatment, is that the increase in the 1.3 million in the jail budget?
it's not all in the jail budget, but there is an increase in the jail. But what the county is seeing, as you're seeing, as we're all seeing, is the huge increase in health insurance. So there is some of it in the jail budget,
Yep.
but the rest of it is coming from the ARCA funds. And, you know, we've had a lot of discussion. I mean, we replace 7 vehicles a year in the sheriff's department. Well, if you don't have a vehicle and you don't have a backup vehicle, then you can't put a sheriff on the road. And I think, you know, I think the commissioners do the best they can with what they have. And county, there's a lot of pieces to the county puzzle that, until I served on this committee, I didn't even know they existed. It's a well-oiled organization. I mean, I was shocked last year when I went, I'm like, what is all this lab set up over here? Well, for a while, they were doing all the COVID testing. Like, wow. You know, so it's, you know, we like to complain about the county budget, It's the sheriff's department and the jail, and we're spending all this money, but it's also probate, register of deeds, judges. Let me make sure I get it all. You have to pay for the commissioner and the county managers, facilities and maintenance, the treasurer, the district attorney, deeds, probate, police, sheriffs, communication and dispatch. I mean, there's a lot that goes on to running this county. And some people will say, I will guarantee it won't happen in my lifetime, but eventually we will have no more municipal government and everything, we'll have no town local government and everything will be run at the county level. But that won't happen in my lifetime. But does anybody else have any questions about what's going on in the county?
That new building, Becky, is that gonna be county-owned, or is it being run by a private entity?
So the new EMA facility and the new York County treatment facility is all owned by the county.
Yep, it'll fall under EMA, but
Yep.
it'll be under the county umbrella.
Yeah.
And then it'll train fire and police
Yeah.
and EMS. So that training facility is going to be a state of the art.
Facility, yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very
Anybody
much, Becky.
else? Becky, Martha,
You
one
know
more
me,
thing?
one more thing.
One
I
more
just
thing.
want to say that we did go to the school district budget vote. Mary was there, Becky was there, I think. Lou, were you there too? And I want to say that Hollis had 16 people in attendance, voters. We tied with Standish. Go Hollis! And the budget did pass, so you'll be
Right.
voting
Yeah.
on the budget validation, which just is 2 questions. It's a yes or no. It doesn't even have a dollar amount on the ballot because we had to print the ballots before the budget's approved. So we will have that outside, the guardrail at Election Day too, so you can see the breakdown of that. I've already got the copies made for it, so we're rocking it. So, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Anybody else before we adjourn?
Has Mr. Warren been introduced to the general public?
Yes, last week.
Yeah, but
Yes, he did.
Mr.
You wanna-
Moran, why
wanna
don't you
take a
come
couple
on
of
up?
minutes
Yep.
and say hi?
And I just want to say, this man came back after the last public hearing, so kudos to him.
I do want you to notice that it's 9:15 and you're pushing my buttons again. I'll repeat what I said last week, much more briefly. I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm more than thrilled at listening and watching the town involvement. As I mentioned, I think we had a discussion. You asked during my interview, do you prefer paper ballots or the Old Town meeting, raise your hand? And I said, I'm mixed because I want the public to be informed. You've done a wonderful job discussing all of the warrant articles, and I think that's very important that people interact and understand everything that they're voting on. So I stand where I was. I like the raise your hand because you get a chance to really sound off if you need to, but at the same time, I'm thrilled to see the involvement here, and I can't wait till July 1st.
And this is our new town manager. I don't think we officially said what he was and maybe you did and I didn't hear it.
It's a secret.
It's not a secret.
Secret. He's undercover.
Well, we love it, Dick, when you come and attend the meetings, and we love it when you come to the meetings.
And we're going to
We
be
like it when you come to the meeting.
and we're going to be seeing more of him because he's going to come to our safety training before he's hired. So. Okay.
Okay, flashback.
Flash,
What's that word for the tool?
huh?
The tool you were looking for?
Transit.
Thank you.
He passed me
I
a
knew
note.
he'd remember.
Sounds like.
Hey.
Anyway, and I think we should be thinking about our custodian. Seeing
Yep.
he's going to be taking on a lot more work, we probably should make him a maintenance technician.
I made him the
Make him
maintenance
proud.
department head.
Yeah.
The maintenance.
Just
I forget
him.
what I call him at the safety meeting. So
Yep.
he's
I, John, Jack, would like to
Jingleheimer
thank
Smith.
everybody for coming in who's been on Zoom I appreciate it very much. I think we have a pretty good team, and we should probably have even a better team, I hope, in the future,
Yeah.
even if it isn't me. I just want to say, we put a lot of time and effort, Nathan. I sit here, Mary spreads all the paperwork. She takes over the whole floor sometimes in the office. You got to jump.
He
know,
laughs
keep-
at me
keep
because
you in shape,
sometimes
you know.
when I'm trying to sort something, it's easier to put it on the floor and sort it on the floor.
Everywhere.
And they of course come in and go, where do I step?
Yep.
Out.
So,
Yeah.
so at this time, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
And I think everybody's in favor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Have a great